Now, if you're a Pearl Jam nut like I am, this one is for you. I was so stoked to see a Q&A article in the latest classic rock magazine around Mike McCready. Yes, the other guitar player outside of Stone Gossard. It's Mike McCready. And believe it or not, before I get into the article, let me tell you a story. In October of last year, I actually met him. Now, you don't understand. Pearl Jam is my all-time favorite band ever. I just got hooked as soon as I heard Alive. That really intrigued me. It was nothing like previous to that. There was a long solo in the end, and the rhythm was just kind of not the 4/4 beat. And Eddie Van Halen, another great guy, but Eddie Vedder. His voice was just so haunting, and it just gripped me right away. And so since I heard Alive, it just grabbed a hold of my heart and hasn't let go since, many, many years later. So there's a friend of mine who years and years was trying to convince me to go down to Seattle and meet Mike McCready. And because of work, I wasn't able to. And finally, I had a window where I wasn't working. So you know what? I decided, let's do this. Pull the trigger, went down to Seattle, and I couldn't have asked for a better experience. First of all, just meeting Mike would have been amazing, but he actually played an intimate show at this event. There was probably, less than 2,000 people for sure. And I rushed to the stage when I knew he was going to play, rushed to the stage, and he pretty much rocked out in front of me for a whole hour, and he was pretty much 3 feet away from me. And I was just vibing. I had goosebumps. I was in awe. I couldn't believe it. So that was an added bonus. And I mean, to see him and whip out his guitars, he just recently came out with a Fender version of his beloved Strat. He actually believed it was a 1959 Strat for the longest time, but when Fender got a hold of it to replicate it, they actually broke the news to him that it was actually a 1960 Strat. So all these years he was duped, but regardless, it looks awesome. They did a custom Strat of his, the exact replica, and it was just a ridiculous amount of money. But recently they did a run where it was like a mass-produced replica of his Strat. That's about $2,000, I believe. Obviously, him being one of my guitar heroes, wanted to get it. However, I didn't want to get it before meeting him, because you know how it goes, right? Meeting someone that you really admire, and there's always this slight little possibility of them ruining it for you, right? Ruining that experience and ruining their image of how you think of them, right? Because they could always be like an a-hole, or they're human, right? So depending on how they're feeling that day, they may be having a bad day and just not giving you the vibes that you want. And so I actually told myself, like, all right, I'm gonna meet this guy, and you know what? I'm gonna wait to buy this guitar, because what if he treats me like crap? It's not gonna have a good feeling every time I pick it up. Anyways, I'm happy to say I am currently saving up to get that guitar, and I will put it up on my wall beside the picture of me and Mike giving a thumbs up and him having his arms around me. It was unbelievable. First of all, he's like just the nicest guy, and I walked up to him and I had this leather jacket on, and the first thing he tells me is, "Hey, nice leather jacket." And I was just like speechless, like, oh my God, here I am just about to tell him how he's my God. And he's the one that starts off first by complimenting me on something, totally flipped the narrative. And I just was so happy to look him in the eye, shake his hand, and tell him, hey, thanks a lot for your music. Your solo for Live changed my life. Your music changed my life. I'm so appreciative. Thank you. And you know what? He looked at me and says, hey man, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. Like, he meant it. He probably has heard this a million times, someone coming up to him, but he was just genuinely happy that I told him that. And offered some picks, said, hey man, do you want some picks? Reached into his pocket and offered me a ton of picks, which I'm gonna cherish. And said, hey, yeah, want a picture? Put his arm around me, and boom, buddy of mine took the picture of my life, and it was definitely a highlight of my life. I'll never forget it. Mike was so cool. And the bonus on top of that, I actually got to meet his beautiful wife, saw his kids there, got to hang out for a bit. It was just such a magical night. It's something I can always go back to, right? Whenever I'm not getting any good vibes or whatever, I can always look back to that, look at that guitar, look at that picture, hopefully, and just get reminded of that moment. And why, life is great that, you have these moments of inspiration, and we all have something that we love and a passion that we're into, and just having these moments of reminders of, hey, this is why you live. This is what makes you feel alive. It's just amazing. Mike, I know you're never going to watch this video, but thank you so much for your music, first of all, and thank you for such a beautiful experience. It was only a couple of minutes of my life, but it was definitely a highlight of my life, and, a moment that I'll never forget. So thank you, Mike. And so that's why this means a lot to me, just reading this and being able to bring this article to you all.